Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Got my guys Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter coming for you here in just a minute. This will be a recruiting extravaganza. We're going to go over the commitments. We're going to go over the official visitors from the weekend, and we're going to go over what happened on Monday at camp. And there is just too much to go over, so let's get the ad over with. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that smooth summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed to the top. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code BUCKNUTS. Summertime, and the trimming is easy. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts. Performance Package 5.0 gifts are the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. That's again 20% off and free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS at manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping with the code BUCKNUTS at manscaped.com. It's smooth summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Here are 2 guys that never get left behind, the Dean Bill Kurelic and the Grand Poobah Mark Porter. We are going to get rolling right away here. We're going to go in, I guess that would be called reverse. No, it's chronological order, not reverse chronological order. We're going to go commitments, the weekend's official visitors, and then what happened on Monday. So we will open it up with Quincy Porter. Oradell, New Jersey, Bergen Catholic High School, big-time football in the New York area. He looks bigger than your Brian Hartline mold, or is Brian Hartline's mold just the best? Bill, take it away in terms of his commitment, and Mark, you have video to back it up.
Well, it was huge, absolutely huge. I mean, they already had 1 wide receiver, and there's a good morning to Deetra as well. But they already had 1 wide receiver commitment, but they're looking for at least 3, maybe 4. And, 2 of the guys at the very top of the board, without a question, Quincy Porter and Kurelic Moore. So they've got 1 of the 2 now. What made it even better for Ohio State is the fact that, we've been talking for a week and a half, 2 weeks, that Quincy Porter was going to end up at either Ohio State or Michigan. So you either play with him or you play against him, and it's sure better that kind of talent that you're playing with him. Another big recruiting win over Michigan. When he made his official visit, I talked to him for a while afterwards, and it was pretty obvious that he was going to have to make a decision. Did he want to go on that official visit to Michigan or get it out of the way and commit to Ohio State? And after he announced on Friday, it was early Friday afternoon, I talked to him about everything on Friday, and basically he said that, he really thought when he left Ohio State, he wanted to go to Ohio State. But as he put it, he had, there was family stuff. He had wanted to talk things over with his family for the week and decide, do I want to go to Michigan or not? Well, in the end, he didn't go to Michigan, and that was big. And they were expecting him to make that official visit up there. But he decided, after going over things with his family and all, that he knew he wanted to be a Buckeye, and Ohio State was a better place for him to be developed and to get to his goal, the league and all that. So he decided not to go on that visit to Michigan, and the rest is history. He's a Buckeye.
Mark, take it away. He's a little bit different in that he's more in the X mode. That's the bigger outside receiver. For those of you who are premium subscribers, you know this, but this is just a taste of what's up on the site now. Mark, take it away.
Yeah, I've seen him listed over 6'4". I mean, it has him listed at 6'3", 190, and he is a tall drink of water. He is definitely that X side receiver that can handle the backside one-on-one coverages and definitely beat it. But I put a couple of short throws here where you could see him take short hitches and weave his way through the whole defense and come out the other side. The more I watched film of this kid, the more I came away and said, we haven't been talking about him enough or raved about him enough and how big and strong. And he's a Jeremiah Smith in training. Let's take the training wheels off him in a couple of years, and I think you may have a Jeremiah Smith type player here. I mean, these little passes here and the acceleration to come out the other side is not what you would expect from the bigger body. I guess I thought, oh, bigger body, he's not going to be that explosive. Now, how about those hands? I mean, my next little series here is all of his hands plays and all the 50-50 balls. So to go along with that frame and everything, he can use it down by the goal line. He's got the leaping ability. He's got the confidence to go rip balls out of the air. And the quarterback he's playing with believes in him. This man is just throwing this kid trash half the time, and he is going up and cleaning it up like a collector. So this is really an impressive film. And then I finished the film up with all his deep balls where he just runs by guys, and you see his speed. So you see a complete receiver, which at 6'3", 6'4", sometimes you worry they might not come in and out of breaks the same. They might not. But if they do it at that size, they are special. And this is Marvin Harrison clone, but JV right now. He's not Marvin Harrison. He's not Jeremiah Smith. But give this kid a weight room, give this kid an offseason to tighten a few things up, and he may come out the other side shocking a lot of people, because I don't think we've really, not want to say hyped him, but I don't think we've given him his due for the type of player he is.
Yeah, if you look at his offer list, it's everybody. Got the Georgia, Ohio State, USC across the board. I think LSU may be the only school that hasn't offered, and my idea there is that they just don't want to go through the hassle. That guy is the best receiver in the New York area. Far be it for Ohio State to leave the East Coast out when it comes to running back. They went to the Philadelphia area, St. Joe's. I wonder if we got to start talking about a St. Joe's pipeline here, Bill. Isaiah West, running back. Carlos Lachlan has made quite an impression since arriving, and seems to be doing quite well recruiting running backs. Talk about the commitment of Isaiah West. I think you kind of saw it coming, but bring us up to speed, and then Mark will let us know what we're getting.
Now, that one was coming ever since he and I were just talking on the phone. And he just casually said back in May, I just decommitted from Kentucky. I mean, it wasn't the usual way. It was just a very casual, well, I decommitted from Kentucky. And I think it took, 30 seconds for me to crystal ball into Ohio State at that point. That's a underrated commitment, just like he's underrated. I had one person tell me at Ohio State that he's the most underrated running back in the country. And Carlos Lachlan, my goodness gracious, he's hit the ground running. When it comes to recruiting, he's offering guys, he's talking to kids. I mean, he's got connections all over the country. He's working kids out at camps and visiting schools. He's done it all. I think, like we say, maybe he's selling popcorn too. But, he's been tremendous. He gets Bo Jackson, beats Michigan for him, among other schools. Now he flips Isaiah West. And again, Isaiah West is a kid that is not afraid to compete. He told me right away, he said, Coach Lachlan told me it's wide open. The running back room is going to be wide open next season. And it doesn't matter if they bring in 1, 2, 3 running backs this class. He doesn't care. He's ready to come to Ohio State and compete. And you mentioned, Dan, the St. Joe pipeline. And that could go a little further, too. Maxwell Roy, we're going to get to the official visits in a few minutes here this past weekend. Maxwell Roy, the defensive lineman from St. Joe, along with Isaiah West, made his official visit to Ohio State this past weekend. And he's another one of those kids. Does he go to Michigan and make that visit? He's scheduled to visit Michigan this weekend. Like some people had Porter tagged for Michigan, a lot of people have Maxwell Roy tagged for Michigan. That official visit this past weekend to Ohio State opened his eyes even farther to Ohio State. So we'll see what happens the rest of the week and if Maxwell Roy does the Michigan official visit. But if Ohio State goes all in on Maxwell Roy, they are absolutely a strong contender for him, and they like him. They do like him. Had a very good official visit this past weekend.
If you want a good St. Joe's Ohio State trivia question, and you go over alums, guess who is a St. Joe's alum? Jim Knowles. That can't hurt. All right there, Marcus. Take us through Isaiah West. Your thoughts on the running back.
You know, when Bill was talking about him being a little underrated, you know, you watch these first couple clips and you're like, yeah, is there any competition on the field? And I don't think it's to like the third clip where you really see him display everything. These first couple, he just runs by everybody, well, like he should. I mean, it looks like there's nobody on the field here for the second half of this play. But what you're going to see here is the combination of a jitterbug who has the left, right, side-to-side movement and the power. When he puts his shoulder down, you're going to see guys drip off him. And here's what I'm talking about. He pulls out of a leg tackle, takes 3-4 shots in the hole there. You can see the desire to keep going. So you see the power. You can see him out of the backfield here. He's going to catch a nice ball. But when he gets in the open field, you could see the vision. You could see him making some nice cutbacks here later in the film. But, yeah, when you say underrated, I could see why they say that. It just looks like this is an unassuming film, your normal tailback film. But as you watch it and really break it down, you start to see he is blowing by people. And when you don't play great competition, you should beat it up in a good way. And that's kind of what he's doing here. He comes out the other side of a couple of those. We're going to have a breakdown for him where I dive in and I kind of categorize his runs the way I kind of did that receivers film where big catches, big speed. We'll get into all his power plays. We'll get into all his breakaways, and we'll see how good he actually is. But, yeah, it's unbelievable how many commitments we have at running back. And a couple of weeks ago, we were wondering.
I tell you what, they play a pretty good schedule. One of those clips was at Franklin Field at Penn. So I think St. Joe's is just good, and he looks good on tape. Bill, how does this affect running back recruiting and that you have crystal balls still out there for running backs? How will the class finish up?
Well, right now, the hope is that they finish up with 3, and that is not just a hope. It's a very realistic possibility. I have Jordan Davidson from California still crystal ball to Ohio State. Now, he now knows Ohio State has 2 running backs in the class in Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. Does he does that impact him at all? You know, that's a question that cannot be answered 100% sure right now. My gut feeling is that it's probably not going to have a huge impact on him, but you never know till it actually happens. And talking to some people at Ohio State yesterday, you know, that's kind of their take. You know, we'll see now. There's still I'd say a quiet confidence that Jordan Davidson is the guy in the class that completes the trio. But I will tell you that if Jordan Davidson is not, Ohio State has a backup plan. They do a great job of planning for all eventualities. Of course, we've talked about Anthony Rogers, the Alabama running back commitment. He says that he wants and is planning to make an official visit to Ohio State. And, you know, like I said, there's a backup plan that they'll execute if their goal is to get 3 running backs in this class, because the high likelihood is they're only going to have 2 scholarship offer running backs on the roster next year in James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon. So they need to get at least 2. They've got 2, and they would really, really want to get 3. You can always go into the portal, but if you can get Jordan Davidson, Bo Jackson, and then Isaiah West as your 3 incoming running backs, you go that way every single time.
Yeah, that would be absolutely spectacular. All right, Bill, pick it up here. Official visits over the weekend. Please mention the ones that were important and how they affected recruiting.
Well, all 11. How's that?
Like to hear it.
They had 11 official visits this past weekend. 2 of them had been committed. Carter Lowe, solid as a rock. London Merritt, who North Carolina has continued to recruit, but his visit went extremely well, and I expect him to sign with Ohio State. You never know. It's a long way till December is a long way off still, and people are still going to recruit him. But I certainly, as things stand right now, feel good about him. So those 2 kids were the commitments, and Carter Lowe, of course, was helping out recruiting. He was helping out particularly with the offensive linemen, and there were 2 of them there. Micah DeBose from Alabama and Josh Petty. Josh Petty from Georgia. He, of course, is a 5-star. Micah DeBose is a high 4-star. Of the 2 right now, you know, if I absolutely had to handicap it, I think Ohio State has a shot at both of them. but I'd probably go with DeBose as the one that they have maybe a slightly better shot with. He had a great official visit to LSU. Alabama's in the running. I think it'll come down to one of those three schools: Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, in no particular order right now. Josh Petty, I was told that when he was on campus, he wasn't even able to really say necessarily who his top 2 or 3 was at this point. And he's, not that far from necessarily making a decision. So he's got some thinking to do. It'll be in part an academic-driven decision. He has Stanford on that list, and that's pretty strong academically. Florida State is the official visit this weekend, and he has a sister that is enrolling there as a freshman in a matter of months or whatever time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Josh Petty, but Ohio State, is battling for him as well. Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, that is the brother of Jeremiah Owusu Koramoah of the Browns. His visit went extremely well. Right now, I see that as an Ohio State Notre Dame battle. Notre Dame had a pretty big lead going into Ohio State, but I think Ohio State tightened things up greatly with him. Defensive lineman, we have mentioned already, Maxwell Roy. He's going to end up, in my opinion, need either Ohio State or Michigan. And then London Merritt, we mentioned. Marion Dye, interesting guy. At one point, Ohio State was kind of the odds-on favorite for him. Took other visits. But right now, he really loved his official visit to Ohio State this past weekend. He told me afterwards that his top 2, Ohio State and Purdue, interestingly enough. He had also been considering highly Michigan, but that's not going to happen. Unless something changes, he's not going to end up at Michigan. Can't forget Phillip Bell, the wide receiver. Could easily be wide receiver number 3 in this class. I've said all along he's going to end up at Ohio State or USC. It'll be interesting in a kind of a Quincy Porter-like type thing. Does he take the official visit to USC this weekend? As of now, he is scheduled to make that visit. Or does he cancel and commit to Ohio State? Right now, like I said, he's planning to take that visit. Little different than Quincy Porter, though. He was going to go from New Jersey to Michigan for that official visit. Well, in the case of Phillip Bell, he's a California kid. Getting to USC would not be as big a deal. But right now, Ohio State has the momentum with Phillip Bell, but I want to see what happens if he takes that official visit to USC and what happens there. And then you got defensive backs. Messiah Delhomme, the safety, who I think is going to end up at either Ohio State or Virginia Tech. Liked his visit a lot. And Brandon Finney from Maryland. That one's a wild card right now. We'll see what happens on that one. And I think, Dan, I got all 11 in there, I think.
Did you breathe, Bill? I realize we're running Bill out the carpet here. I don't know how else to go about this. There's so much good stuff. Yeah, this has been asked. No, there's my guy here. Yeah, okay, Tom asked. So this is an old school. This is like swag from one of our first conventions. You can't get this one, but I'll throw a link in the story here where you can go get your finest 24/7 swag. We love it when everyone's out there representing. All right. That was a lot of official visit information. And so you assume, hey, they're done recruiting. The staff just took the rest of it. Not at all. Yesterday was a potpourri of studs, but we should start with the guy I was getting hyperbolic about in our thread, and that was Chris Henry Jr. He was running routes yesterday. I made the comparison and say he looks a lot like Jeremiah did when he was that age. He may not be the overwhelming physical guy yet. I will say this, though. He looks very, very smooth. And I would say I like his hands a little bit better than Jeremiah at this stage, but we're talking, this is like the LeBron Jordan argument at some point here where it's like, just say yes and be quiet. Don't screw it up. All right, Bill, talk about what you saw yesterday from Chris Henry, and then Mark can kind of back you up here and have some video to go along with it. And then why don't you go ahead and let everyone else know who else was here yesterday, if any recruitments were changed. I know they just are giving out offers so much that I need to create a whole new Rolodex, but take it and run with it, would you?
Well, you talked about Chris Henry's hands. I'm not sure I saw him miss a ball yesterday that was even remotely catchable. He made a couple catches on the sideline that were just spectacular. And, I got some of those clips that I think Mark has now. And, he's a long kid with speed and great hands, and he's absolutely the real deal. He's also, by the way, a heck of a young man. I love talking to that guy, and every time I see him, he's just more congenial than ever. That right there, by the way, is Jaden O'Neal, one of the quarterbacks throwing to him that Ohio State offered yesterday. And talking about Chris Henry, there's Chris there. We were talking yesterday about how one of the guys he mentioned was, hey, Jaden O'Neal's here today. And it's like his face lit up like, hey, this is another California guy that maybe could be throwing to me at Ohio State someday. So I'll let Mark take it from there on Chris Henry.
I was going to say, Bill, finish up here with a couple of these other receivers, because there were a couple other receivers, Morgan and this kid with the pair here. They put on a show also.
That's Jabari Mack right there.
There you go. I was going to say, Bill's been talking about these out-of-state guys. I like this kid.
That's Sedarian Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, he really – watching him and Chris Henry go all day was like eating cake, and, it was awesome. I mean, you don't get to see – and RJ Day was there watching, and he looked over me. He goes, 5-star to 5-star, not too bad. Like, It was a show yesterday. Like, everyone was kind of out surrounding this thing, and I notice on these days that the Ohio State coaches take kids like Chris Henry and they really start taking them under their wing and start teaching them things like they're already part of the team. And it's almost like a free practice. Yeah, where they get to really start working on these things. I thought Chris Henry looked a lot like his father. I mean, I can remember his father being like a Randy Moss in training, as his first couple of years in the league. And Chris looks a lot like that. You see the catch radius, and Bill said he's making all these catches. I hate when people ask Dan, like the Jordan LeBron thing, or the comparison between Chris Henry and, players like Jeremiah Smith. I mean, boy, you almost don't want to pick one because you feel like you're knocking on the other one when there's no knocks on any of them. Chris Henry, though, his stride in the open field, when he gets going, you can see him on deep balls starting to open up and pull away from people. I saw some comments about how he ran some of the shorter routes, almost like a smaller guy. He does do a good job of sticking his routes, meaning when he puts his foot in the ground and he makes his cut, it's sharp. It's not a wind down cut where he has to gather his feet for a few steps before he sticks it in there. He can really stick it in there and come out of it. After the catch is where you could see him turn on some guys and really, I know there's no one else on the field in pursuit, but you could see him just take off and pull away from people and what he's capable of. But just an impressive day for out-of-state guys yesterday, Bill. And, for the Ohio guys, it was not a big day. And Pat Murphy's article of all the kids offered, there wasn't an Ohio kid offered, but the last 4 camps were chock full of the Ohio. I think the Ohio kids knew, get to these camps early. Don't wait till the last one, where some of these out-of-state kids were like, hey, this is my last chance to get a look at Ohio State. But definitely a day for the out-of-state kids.
I'm going to see a previous camp Ohio offer today. After this podcast, I'm going to head down to the Ohio State team camp, and Jameer Brown is going to be in action with his team. I'm anxious to see him again, by the way. He was in case anybody wasn't listening, the first 2027 player in the state of Ohio. Ohio State got offered at camp. The first camp, if I remember right, I'm pretty sure it's right, June 5th, and he's going to be back today for team camp.
Now, you want to talk about speed. That's my guy I was touting as. He's as fast as the other guys they're recruiting. The only difference is I think he's 15 years old, just finished his freshman year at Wayne. And, just to compare that to Chris Henry, what I loved about Henry is that his body is starting to fill out with like that. His shoulders are getting a little wider. He's getting a little thicker because he was kind of that wiry strength looking guy at one point. It looks to me like he is going to fill out. Like his dad was more of a wiry type, like you mentioned, the Randy Moss type. If you look at him now, we use these names too much, but he looks more like he's going on the Julio Jones mold, where he's a little bit stronger, not the AJ Green mold, which his dad was more in. We are literally just being overly ridiculous and hyperbolic here, comparing him to like Hall of Fame.
Every great tall receiver, yeah.
But who
Every
else are you
great
going to
tall
compare him
receiver.
to? That's how good they
Yeah.
are. I mean, it's just
And
context is important.
and even Quincy Porter, I started that video thinking, and I mean, he had a long highlight film where I probably didn't include 10 or 15 of his touchdowns. And I kept thinking to myself, are you really going to throw out these lofty comparisons like Jeremiah Smith and Marvin Harrison and put him on that track? But that's what Ohio State does. That's why we're Bucknuts. That's why we cover these guys, because it's a never-ending train of these just freakish players. And it's really a will or won't they? Will they get to school? Will they get to class and get in the weight room? And will they develop into the players that we hype them to be? Or will the other players that get brought in supersede them somehow? You know, and it's not like a bad thing, but it's a dog-eat-dog world to go get these comparisons, be the next A.J. Green, Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss. I mean, you name the who's who of tall receivers.
And competitive spirit and your ability to withstand adversity when you get to Ohio State, very, very important. And Garrett Wilson got some real pub for what he said about being a receiver at Ohio State. They do not kid glove you. You got to come in and make plays early. You're going to be surrounded by guys for the first time in your life. They're as talented or more talented than you are. But it's now been proven over a good period of time that if you stick it out, Terry McLaurin, you're going to be a great football player and just rely on Heartline. All right. Speaking of great coverage, and I want to get to this real quick before we go over the rest of your questions. The Elite 11 starts today out in Manhattan Beach, California. Ohio State will have a guy there. You may have heard of him, Tavian St. Clair. Highest rated quarterback at the event. For some reason, Bryce Underwood did not go. Bill, maybe you know and can tell us at some point. A lot of studs there. Ryan Montgomery will be there as well. Andrew Ivins will be there, director of scouting for 24/7 Sports. He will be my guest tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Luckily for you, it will be 9 a.m. here in the East, in the Midwest for that matter. And today's the first kind of check-in day. A lot of instruction going on today. So tomorrow morning will be a great day to get Andrew on the show and go over that in detail. There's tons of content on our site and the 24/7 Sports site, video with him and Cooper Patagna. Andrew previewing the event. And if you like Tavian St. Clair coverage, this is where you want to be. Trust me on that one.
By the way, Dan, I talking about those two. I think I saw one of the 247 Sports guys. They asked him who was going to be the best quarterback out there. One of them picked Tavian St. Clair. The other one picked Ryan Montgomery. I've been doing this a long time, and two Ohio kids is picked as the top two quarterbacks or predicted to be the top two quarterbacks. That's not too bad. So that'll be interesting. And the second thing is, I mentioned team camp today. Well, obviously, Tavian St. Clair is not going to be at team camp, but his Bell Fountain team will be there. And guess who is running the show for that Bell Fountain team today? None other than freshman quarterback Rain Sinclair. He will be quarterbacking the Bell Fountain team today, and he's the heir apparent. He's going to be the backup quarterback this year. He's not going to beat his brother out, obviously. He's going to be the backup quarterback for Bell Fountain on the varsity this year. And then Rain is kind of the heir apparent to take over as a sophomore to be Bell Fountain's starting quarterback. So I get a look at him today, and that'll be interesting.
Bill, did you say his name is Rain?
Rain. Reign, I believe is how he spells it.
Wow.
Rain St. Clair.
Listen, even if these guys don't turn out to be good quarterbacks, you got to credit the family for picking pro names to start. I told you guys, you got to pass the Yankees third base test. You got to say your son's name over the loudspeaker and say third base for the Yankees, Rain St. Clair. That's sweet. All right, here we go. Let's do rapid fire here.
Oh, Dave, before we get to that, one last thing.
Bill,
yesterday was also officially defensive line day at Ohio State, and Mark can tell you this too. They offered, I think, 5 new defensive line offers, all the class of 2026. There were some great defensive linemen there. In fact, Mark had a couple clips on there. One of them was Zion Ellie, who already had been offered but kind of got re-offered yesterday. But it was a great group of defensive linemen there yesterday, without a doubt.
Okay, rapid fire. Lord knows we are not good at rapid. We're good at digressions, but we'll give it a shot here. I'm the most guilty. Jermaine Runnels, and I'm going to try and pick questions that kind of that are popular here. Of course, we have the David Sanders talk. Should Ohio State fans from Jermaine Runnels, should Ohio State fans be excited about David Sanders not taking a midweek? What does that mean? Mid-week visit to Alabama. Bill.
Well, it's always a good thing when you lessen the competition, so to speak. But realistically, I've really felt for a little bit now that he wasn't necessarily going to end up at Alabama. I think the general, and it's hard to say with David Sanders Jr. because he's really kept things pretty close to the vest overall. But I think, the feeling, general vibe is that it's Ohio State, Tennessee, Ohio State would probably be the favorites at this point. Clemson was at one point, so things do change. They're not in the running, really. So we'll see what happens. But you got to like, and Alabama, nothing's changed as far as Ohio State getting the last visit. They were going to be the last visit, and they still are the last visit. And by the way, Carter Lowe is going to try to get – Lowe knows David Sanders Jr. pretty well. And Carter Lowe is going to try to get down to Ohio State this weekend again to help out with his recruitment.
Another guy we have to discuss on every show. I'd like both of you to weigh in on this one. Mark, take it away from this. Trey McNutt. Do you hear any buzz among your Ohio people on Trey McNutt? I can't believe we're going to actually go through this class and have this tremendous recruiting class and not get the number one safety according to 24/7. He's from Ohio. You guys both need to opine on this.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything inside. When I went to the Shaker Heights workout a month ago, he wasn't working out. He was just kind of hanging out there. And I can say he's been enjoying the process, the 7-on-7s. He's done a lot of that stuff. He's definitely boosted his national ranking by getting out to all those things and being seen. It seems like every time he went out to one of those national events, the hype followed him right back to Ohio where, like we said, Bill and I have seen some of these kids so early in the process that we knew the hype was there. We knew that, he was going to be this big, but I think I read one of Bill's articles about him like a couple of weeks ago, and it was, hey, this kid's going to string this out, and it's going to be a while before he ends this process. And I think we just have to grab hold of our seats and hope. But this class is so good. It's not a one-player make-or-break class for any of these guys. Even if we lost a commitment here or there, I mean, we've stacked some players into this class. So, in typical Ohio State fashion, they'll be fine. And I think McNutt having the legacy and being the Ohio kid, the arrows point there. And I, in the past, had heard that. But it's such a long – the message boards is what makes you lose confidence in it. Well, the last things I heard, I had confidence, but – reading message boards for 3 months, you kind of sit here today going, well, maybe there's a chance someone else could take them, but it was rock solid months ago.
We'd like all of you to read the message boards, especially the front row. So overdo it on that. You may tilt and come back to rationalization. All right, Bill, you get the last word. Like I said, tomorrow we will have Andrew Ivins on here talking quarterbacks at the Elite 11, but the last word of today's show goes to the dean on Trey McNutt.
Well, I think that question's not up there still, but it was phrased something along the lines of, are we still looking good for McNutt? That's not exactly the way I would put that 2 weeks ago or now for that matter. I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I said on this podcast, someone close to his recruitment and someone at Ohio State told me it's anybody's guess where Trey McNutt ends up. And I would still say that's the case. He did have a great official visit to USC. Would he go all the way out there to USC? Yeah, I think he could. Would he stay in his home state, Ohio State? Yeah, I think he could, but it's anybody's guess right now. He has told me all along, and I've gotten to know Trey pretty well, and I still don't have a good handle on where he's going to end up. I know his dad. I covered his dad, showing my gray hair here. I covered his dad and when he was being recruited, Richard McNutt. And I don't have a really good idea where he's going to end up. Could be Ohio State, could be USC. He went to Florida last weekend for an official visit. He's, the one thing he's told me is that he will take an official visit to Ohio State. Again, it's recruiting, so maybe things change. So does he make that official visit to Ohio State this weekend, or does he wait till the season and make it then? He has released all of his official visits one by one around the middle of the week. He'll say, I'm going to this certain school this weekend. It's not the middle of the week yet. He hasn't announced yet where he's going this weekend. But if he doesn't go to Ohio State, I think he still will make an official visit to Ohio State if he doesn't go there this weekend, and we'll see what happens. Anybody's guess on that one, fans. Ohio State's got 3 safeties in the class right now, including Fahim Delane, Cody Haddad, who we really like a lot, the Jersey kid Stewart. They can take 4, and if McNutt wants in, then he will be in.
I have a feeling there's going to be a guy a couple classes ahead of him is going to get drafted very, very high at that position and blaze a little bit of a trail. So he may want to follow in with that. Like we said,
Messiah DeHelm visited Ohio State this past weekend and went well.
Bill, I got to end the show at some point. You must stop putting out great information at some point, Bill. People don't realize the show ends when we sit here and Bill keeps talking for like 20 minutes. Mark and I go get a sandwich. We come back, Bill, more names. Like I said, today, Bill will be at team camp. We got some other guys there. Bell Fountain, without Tavian St. Clair, will be there, but still worth a show. And, of course, Jameer Brown from Wayne will be there. So get ready to see some real speed. And like I said, again, Andrew Ivins tomorrow morning reporting on the Elite 11 from Manhattan Beach and hopefully what is the Tavian St. Clair show. We appreciate everybody stopping by. Have a great one, Bucknutters.